Hello there everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Unlimited video, and a video I was not expecting to make this early, but the 3-set curse continues. For those of you who are not aware, my patented principle, which has yet to be disproved, is that by the end of the third main set of every single card game, there is a ban. And Star Wars Unlimited has not bucked that trend. As we enter set 3, Boba Fett has been suspended, banned. Boba Fett has been banned. So we're going to talk about this, and we'll go through the logic here, and then I'm just going to go through some leaders that I think we need to discuss in light of this ban. So, and I'll also give my sort of personal opinions on this. All right, so effective November 8th, so that's this Friday, which by the way is the deadline to enter my starter deck giveaway, which you can enter in my video summarizing the case pulls I got from Twilight of the Republic, so you should go and enter that. For anything else, he is banned. Sorry, I might have lost you guys, the guys there, so yeah. He's gone, basically, he's gone. So, why take action now? Our default stance up to this point has been to let the metagame evolve early in the game's life, knowing things will continue to shift as more sets come out and the card pool expands, but the dominance of Boba Fett decks is too much to ignore. So let's just look at the stats they're referencing here. Boba Fett decks represented 40% of top finishes and 55% of winners, and that's far above the line of acceptable metagame. And then there's some sort of explanation here as to sort of what they were thinking, why they decided on a ban. And I agree with all their logic here. I think, you know, it was erratering a card is too hard. It's problematic. I think it's not worth the effort. Like realistically, the best hit would probably have been to make Boba a 6 deploy. I still think it would have been really, really good, but probably make it a 6 deploy. I also think part of the reason they made the decision was that Jango Fett was coming out, and like it's the same deck. Spoiler. It's like it's worse. It's definitely worse, but it's the same deck. So like, okay, like there was that safety net. And then there was some discussion here on why suspend Boba Fett specifically, but let me just quickly touch on this. So this is kind of a misleading thing to say, because yes, Boba did represent 40% of top 8s and 55% of winners, but you should bear in mind that that was across all the different leader-based combinations, and I don't think it's fair to lump all the Boba Fett decks together, because Boba Blue is a very, very different deck to Boba Red, which is a very, very different deck to Boba Yellow, which is a very, very different deck to Boba Green. These are all very, very different decks. Now, I completely agree that the leader is evidently too powerful. That is a separate discussion to, like, are the decks seeing too much play? Because the deck archetypes... Now, okay, I don't think they needed to, like, I think this is a good enough reason. I wish they just commented on this, like, and just been like, look, we understand that it's different decks, but, like, the fact that this one leader is basically representing the best version of, like, 4 different deck archetypes is kind of bad. Like, that should not be a thing. I completely agree with that. I think it is a little silly, and the leader is just too versatile. It's just way too good. So why suspend Boba Fett specifically? There was discussion that basically the Boba Fett leader is very powerful, but he also exists in the context of a powerful shell and support pieces. So, like, obviously, like, we look at, you know, the big ones are Boba Fett's armor, overwhelming barrage. Now, obviously, we're gonna have there are 2 of them and things like that. But like armor and barrage, I think, and cunning, if you're on double yellow, are like and fire spray, right? Those are the big 4. Fire spray and armor are in every deck basically, and they are just such ridiculously powerful cards that I understand why. The leader just kind of had to go. The leader, obviously, itself is like insanely pushed, but then you add in those 2 factors. I think without fire spray, the deck would be a lot fairer. But like, yeah, Jango would be pretty unplayable. So I don't know. It's a judgment call there. So, and like, yeah, okay, you guys can read this for yourself. You can see here what they say regarding why they have chosen Boba Fett here. And there's a little discussion here, which I think is quite interesting, about how they got here. And basically, Boba Fett was a development mistake. Yeah, evidently. But it's an understandable Boba Fett mistake. And I think the last bit I want to comment on here from the actual article, which is interesting, is they're basically saying every single set they're going to update this list. And they also make it clear that they are, like, very much like Boba Fett could come back in the future. I expect Boba Fett... Okay, so I expect Boba Fett to come back probably in about a year. And now I'm going to go into my sort of personal thoughts and opinions on this, and kind of with this background. So, do I think Boba Fett needed a ban? Yeah, but like it should have been 2 months ago, and he probably could have come back this set. So, for me, I think that the issue is, well, I think the issue with banning it is it's not an issue. Honestly, I think it's fine. I think like I disagree with the ban at this stage. I would have preferred to see Boba continue to dominate in set 3 and then know it needed the hit. But having seen it just completely dominate 2 sets in a row, I understand why they were just like, no, you know what, not worth the risk. It's the start of the game. Let's just get the leader hit. And, you know, it's fine. Because looking at, in particular, Quinlan, who I'm going to talk about a lot, very, very shortly, I just don't see Boba being anywhere near as dominant in the meta. Like, I think the only really viable Boba deck left is going to be Boba Green. I think, like, the rest are going to struggle quite severely due to a variety of reasons, Boba Green kind of being one of them. But obviously, I also think Boba Green is just going to be stupidly strong. Like, and I think that's like, I think this is fine. I really think this is totally fine. Yeah, basically that's my TLDR. I think this is totally fine. I think it's a little bit preemptive, but I don't have any issues with it. But I do think that we are primed, you know, with Boba gone, I think we are going to see a new Boba tier competitive leader. I think that is Quinlan Boss. But first, let's talk about why. So, what does Boba getting banned mean? It means Sabine's back. It means Sabine is the de facto best deck. And if you are a naive person who has never played a card game before, you think that means take Sabine to your next event. No, it doesn't. That means that everyone is going to be on Sabine, and so what all the good players are going to be doing is taking the decks that hard counter Sabine, and also are comfortable into like other decks that counter Sabine. So Sabine is going to be the, and you know, this is not really shifted. Sabine is the axis around which the game is, you know, rotates, and you know, Boba really was starting to become that axis at the end of set 2. Like, we were really moving away from Sabine being like the big threat, and it was really looking like Boba. But now we're back to Sabine, and so this is just kind of how we were building set 2 decks all over again. And what this is going to mean is basically, if to an even greater extent, if your deck cannot handle Sabine, don't bother playing it. Ain't no point. I'm glad by the way, incidentally, I waited to do my tier list until I left it. I put it off because it's going to be very, very different now. Okay, so Sabine is the new de facto best leader, and so this is what you're going to have to bear in mind when you design your decks. The second thing I want to talk about is Jango Fett, a leader that previously the review was good, but Boba is right there. Well, Boba is no longer right there, and therefore the Boba decks that exist currently are just going to pivot into Jango decks. They are going to be a lot worse. You do not have Boba Fett's armor. You do not have your resource on tapping. You are not a 4/7. In many ways, you are what Boba should have been, a much more fair leader. And honestly, I think that's fine. I think this deck is going to be extremely powerful. The Boba green shell, I think Boba yellow can't, like, that can't exist because you don't have double cunning. You can't double cunning on a flip turn, and that is such a power level drop that, like, I don't even think it's worth bothering to try and make this like double yellow villain deck work again. But I do think the yellow, black, green shell that Boba had going for it is so incredibly strong. And honestly, like, yes, losing on McClunky and things sucks, but like, whatever, like, the deck is still insane. You still have a ridiculous number of options. And so I will be putting up a deck profile for Jango. For those of you who want to just take all your Boba cards and basically just play the exact same deck, just worse. Yeah, this is your leader. But now let's talk about the new elephant in the room for me, and that's Quinlan. I think this is the best leader in the game now, and I don't think it's close. And maybe that's a really hot take to say at this stage, but I think this guy is absolutely ridiculous. So he's 3/7 that makes all your ambushes deal 1 extra damage. And I think, like, understanding breakpoints, this is so fundamentally insane that, like, I think what is going to happen is we're going to see a wave of Quinlans just, like, destroying the format, and then we're going to start seeing decks that counter Quinlan, because there are counters. Until those counters start emerging, he's going to be completely dominant. So, yeah, and then the other thing to bear in mind is, obviously, like, on his backside, he becomes even better, right? And he's got Force, Jedi, and Republic traits. These are all insane traits in light of now there are 2 of them. One thing I want to flag in particular with the reason why I know Quinlan is going to be insanely viable is in just mono yellow. I'm not even looking at yellow hero cards, right? And I'm not even looking at any other color cards. We have these 2 cards here. These are both 4-cost units. They both have 4 attack, and they both say ambush. And that means, in combination with Quinlan's ability, on 4 you can one-shot Sabine. So basically, like, this, you can't lose to Sabine in that sense, right? Like, you one-shot the leader on deploy, you one-shot whatever they play on deploy as well, like, so, yeah. The fact you have these tools inbuilt, and this is just looking at mono yellow, right? And then you can choose like which color you want to splash. At the moment, I think red is now with Boba green, with Boba out of the format. We don't really need ECL, so my money's on red Tarkin Town to be the best version. But I think blue is also looking incredibly strong. Like I think either of those two versions are going to be really, really good, and there's potential for mono yellow as well, but I think it's less good. Cunning stonks in the gutter, by the way. Anyway, so yeah, I think Quinlan's the new big bad. But another couple leaders I just wanted to briefly mention are Asajj and Grievous. And I think these are both very interesting leaders to kind of potentially take those shells we were seeing with Boba and keep going with them. I think Asajj is going to be the new aggro leader. I think like, yeah, this is just very, very scary. I think she's being severely underrated. Yes, she has 4 HP. Okay. I mean, clearly hitting 5 HP for the meta is not going to be a big challenge. So 4 is also going to be whatever, right? Like, that's fine. The idea is to kind of delay actions until the point where like you can deploy her safely or just claim and then keep going, because like it's fine. You don't need her to come out immediately. I think she can play a really interesting hard control game as well, following the sort of the blueprint that Boba Blue has created. But yeah, I think this is a leader that we definitely want to be exploring. And then Grievous, he's a 4/8 that deploys on 6. These stats are nuts now, and especially with the game no longer pivoting around a 5 deploy as much, although Quinlan is nuts. I think Quinlan is worse than Boba. I think now we may actually get some breathing room on 6-cost deploys. There's a lot of 6-cost deploys I wanted to discuss here, but I'm trying to keep this video quite short. So yeah, like Grievous, I'm definitely keeping an eye on just because you can make use of all those shells, which makes me very happy because it's one of my favorite characters. But there we go. So yeah, Boba banned. Overall, I think this is a W for the game. Yep, obviously L, haha, couldn't balance your game, whatever, fine. It happens, and I think I'm really impressed that they've taken this proactive action, and in, I think, 2 weeks at the time of this recording, we are going to have a massive regionals in the UK, so I'm really looking forward to seeing how that event goes. Personally, I'm expecting it to be Quinlan Central at top tables, but we'll see. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like, subscribe, enter my giveaway, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.